Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. There's almost $420 million coming from 2 federal programs for 7 states. I'll be right back with the details. Hey, Rick Uzzi here with Broadband Deployment News. Thanks for joining me. So I wanted to cover a couple of these programs that have just now released a lot of money. So that would be ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, and then also USDA ReConnect. So these are 2 programs, federal programs, that have been releasing lots of money to states for broadband services. In the case of ARPA, it goes to the state. In the case of USDA ReConnect, it goes directly to service providers in that state, so it doesn't go through the state first. But in both of these cases, I mean, this is money that is going to be deployed, that's going to be helping to deploy broadband in areas that are currently unserved. So this will be getting to work fairly quickly compared to a lot of the BEAD money that we're waiting on, waiting for new broadband maps and plans from the states, those kinds of things. These are just now being awarded, and there have been other awards through these programs recently as well. So this is just more money that's coming out in advance of the BEAD program. So we'll look at this one first. So Treasury announces 3 additional capital project fund awards connecting nearly 190,000 homes and businesses to affordable high-speed internet. Today, or February 21st, the U.S. Department of Treasury announced the approval of high-speed internet projects in 3 additional states under ARPA, and that's under the Capital Projects Fund: Arizona, Tennessee, and Wyoming, and again, covering 190,000 homes and businesses. The Capital Projects Fund provides $10 billion. In addition to that, many governments are using a portion of their state and local fiscal recovery funds, and that one is $350 billion. So a lot of money has already been allocated through that fund as well, but the Capital Projects Fund is where this is coming from. Again, it's a $10 billion chunk of money that is being used, that's going to states, and the states are then granting that out. So I've got some details on this. Arizona, you see there's some PDFs here, and most of the information is right here on the page. I linked to both of these things I'm going to show in the description of the video. I did pull a couple of things off of the PDF that I'll tell you about here, but 99.4 million for 127,807 households and businesses. And as I was looking at these, I always like to calculate how much that is per location average when you look at the numbers. And for Arizona, that was surprisingly only $778 for them. So it's very possible that as we look at these, there are going to be differences between how hard these areas are to serve. So maybe these areas they're unserved, but they're not that expensive. I'm not sure why that's the case with Arizona, it being only $778 per location. But we'll see when we look at USDA ReConnect, for example. We've got some high numbers there because there we're talking about very rural areas connecting farms and those kinds of things. So that represents 52% of the state's total allocation under the Capital Projects Fund. And it also said in that PDF that that covers about 11% of the unserved locations that they have left. So that's taking 11% of the unserved locations off of the map. And this, again, is 52% of their total allocation under the Capital Projects Fund. It does say they submitted plans for the remainder of their funds, and those applications are currently under review by Treasury. So they submitted plans for the total. Now, something that, I don't know if this is something that they could submit a plan for now, but one of the things that we have coming up would be BEAD. And as part of BEAD, there's a 25% minimum match, and a lot of states are going to require more than that. And one of the things that you can use for matching funds would be another program like this. So you could take funds through ARPA, or I should say the state could take funds through ARPA, and they could use that to help defray those matching funds, maybe that service providers won't be able to afford, or to be able to get that into the hands of service providers, maybe even some smaller ones that the match might be difficult. And again, I mentioned before, we've had inflation and the cost of capital have really risen in the last couple of years. So I don't know if these states are considering that as they're submitting their plans for the rest of these funds. They should be keeping in mind that they could use some of these funds for matching funds toward additional money that's going to be coming through BEAD. Tennessee is approved to receive $185 million. That's 50,000 households and businesses. That's for their Tennessee's last mile connection program, and then also a middle mile build out program that they've got. And for Tennessee, that turned out to be $3,700 per location on average. That represents 86% of the state's allocation, and they've submitted their plan for the remainder of the funds. And that also is supposed to be serving or covering 11% of the unserved locations that they have left. Then we've got Wyoming, 70.5 million. That's going to cover 11,700 households and businesses. That worked out to $6,026 per location. So again, Wyoming, more widespread maybe in some areas, so $6,026 per location. Arizona's got some pretty wide open spaces as well. So again, I don't know why they wound up being $778 per location. Represents 64% of the state's total allocation, so they have submitted plans the remainder of that money, and that these funds that they're going to be getting are supposed to help cover 20% of the remaining unserved locations that they have in the state. So that is what came from the U.S. Department of Treasury through ARPA. Then we've got USDA ReConnect, so this is through the Department of Agriculture. Biden-Harris administration invests $63 million in high-speed internet for people in rural Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, and Mississippi, so 4 states here. They announced today that the department is investing $63 million to bring high-speed internet access in those states. $63 million in grants comes from the third funding round of the ReConnect program, in which USDA invested a total of $1.7 billion. They've got so far have invested $3.2 billion in bringing high-speed internet to people since the ReConnect program started. ReConnect can be 100% grants, 50-50 grant loan, or 100% loans. In this case, it looks like they're all 100% grants that these providers are getting. So again, USDA ReConnect goes directly to a service provider in these states. So it's not going to the state first. First one, McDonough Telephone Company is receiving an $18 million grant to deploy fiber in Illinois. Will connect, and all these, by the way, were fiber. Everything that I'm reading is fiber. That will connect 1,583 people, 274 farms, and 41 businesses. So you can see immediately it's a little different lay of the land here. We're talking about a certain number of people and then 274 farms. So we're talking about areas that are really big that these are going to be covering, and then 41 businesses. So for McDonough Telephone Cooperative, that came out to $9,483. So again, that's even more than we saw in Wyoming. So that's a lot of money there per location, but again, more difficult areas to reach further, fewer customers per mile or more miles per customer in most cases. Then we've got Alpha Enterprises Limited, $19.5 million grant for 1,023 people, 19 businesses and 10 farms. That's in Michigan. And that is $18,536 per location. So that's the most that I saw on these. And I meant to look to see where this is in Michigan, because Michigan does have some difficult places, especially around, I think, the top part of the state up there, that they have a hard time getting internet. So it may be some of those areas. Then we've got Paul Bunyan Rural Telephone Cooperative, $10 million grant in Minnesota to connect 3,529 people, 71 businesses, and 35 farms and 2 public schools. So that worked out to $2,750 per location for Paul Bunyan. And then finally, Uplink Internet is going to receive a $15 million grant in Mississippi to cover 2,340 people, 143 farms, almost as many as McDonough Telephone there, and then 45 businesses and a public school. And that worked out to be $5,931 for Uplink Internet in the state of Mississippi. So there you have it. Again, I linked to the articles if you want to look at those, or I should say the public notices from both the Treasury Department and the Agriculture Department if you want to check that out. So again, this is all just good news that we've got federal funding that's coming out that's going to be getting put to use pretty quickly. And all of this money that gets put to use now means that any BEAD funds that come down the road will be going further. Because even though this infrastructure could possibly not even get started, I would hope it would get started prior to any BEAD funding grants that are being allocated by the states. But this will be committed money. So any money that's committed from another federal program cannot be used. You can't use BEAD funds for that. So this is money that's going to be put to work sooner than BEAD. And then that means that those BEAD dollars will go further. So as we look at what's unserved in the country, these are areas that will be off the map by the time the BEAD funding comes out. So that's all good news. Thanks for joining me. I will see you tomorrow for Broadband Deployment News. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, click the bell to be notified when I'm live. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. See you next time. Bye-bye.